In this section, I would like to explain about database, how to deal the database and REST API. There are three things that I'm going to explain to you. The first, we'll study about the basic database, how to create the database and what is database, how to create the ERT and etc. Of course, it is very brief. In our department, we have one course related to database. So if you want to know more details, you can just join that class. For this class, I will just give you maybe just 1 hour for this database. And then we are going to look at the workflow for the SQLite at PyCharm, how we can deal with the DB at PyCharm. So I call it embedded DB. And last, we are going to learn about SQL. So those things about the database and SQL, actually you can join the database for more detail. But yeah, today we are just looking the very brief about database and SQL. In the basic database, I'm going to show you some of the relevant topics. Not all, but at least about PK. What is PK? Primary key. FK. What is FK? Foreign key. And what is ERD? Entity relationship diagram. And for the topics that we are going to do for the database connection, we are going to use the SQL Alchemy. For the architecture components, actually now there are a lot of architecture components, especially we are dealing with the web. So I'm going to use one of the architecture component. They call it the model, template, and view. Some of the people, they use the word MVT, but some people, they also use MTV, and yeah, they can figure out the connection between those three. So I'm going to explain first the model. The model, M, stands for the model, or we call it, this is the data access layer. Whenever you build a web, then you need to have a data. And the data will be saved or will be stored in the database. We call it, this is model. This layer contains anything and everything about the data. So how you create the data, how you save the data, how you update the data, or maybe you need to delete those data, how to access it, how to validate it, what behavior it has, and the relationship between the data. We put all of them into the model. The other kind of architecture, we call it template. So the template, we call it a template because it is the presentation layer. Last week, we learned about the basic template. Basic template means we are looking for the way to show the data. So we are finding a way to present the data. That's why we call it the presentation layer. This layer contains presentation related decisions. How something should be displayed on the web page and or other type of document. We are using the HTML to show our data. And in some of our display, we are using the API. We are using the API to show the data. And last time we used the DOCS, if you still remember. We use the docs to show the data that we can see on the web. And the last one, we call it view. V stands for view. So this is the business logic layer. Here, the view is the bridge between the model and the template. This layer contains the logic that accesses the model. You can use the view to access the model. And once you have the data, diverse to the appropriate templates. So you may choose what is the proper template or what is the proper view for this data. So you can think of it as the bridge between models and templates. We already learned about the view and template. Last week, we used the main.py. Use the main.py in order to find what is the data that you want to view. You find the element that you want to show into the HTML. So we already learned view and template. So today we are going to focus on the model, how to create the data, how to create the database, and how to connect this data into the view. And today we are going to do this model and view. Next week, we are going to do those three things. In the database, actually, there are a lot of things you need to figure out, but I'm going to make it very brief, okay? Because I heard that there are some students who are the beginner of Python in this class, and also they are also have no idea about database. So let me just give you a very brief. In the basic database, at least you need to know what is primary key, what is foreign key, and then how to design the ERD. Okay. We have the primary key. The primary key means the unique fingerprint for a row. Okay. I call it fingerprint because it is something that you need to create in a very unique. Let's say your Tegnok Bonho. So it is unique. Your Tegnok Bonho is only one. There will be no duplicates. So this is the same with the primary key. Whenever you create a primary key, it should be unique. It ensures no two records are identical. So whenever you do with the ERD, you need to find what is the primary key. And the other thing that you need to know is to create the foreign key. A foreign key, it is a link in one table that points to a primary key in another. So let's say I have a table, okay, and we have the Tegnuk Ponhu as the primary key. Okay. Let's say I just call it the ID. Okay. And then I want to connect to another kind of information. For example, I have a banking ID. So the bank ID, it should be unique for that bank ID, but of course your bank ID will have your Tegnuk Ponhu. Then it means this primary key will connect to the ID. This is the foreign key. And the bank ID will be the primary key. So every time you connect to another kind of table, for example, you have another kind of platform. Maybe this is your student ID. So the student ID is the primary key in your study, university, for example, in health. So this is your student ID, and here there should be a connection with with your current ID. This is the foreign key. So every primary key, there might be a foreign key. Now one primary key, there can be one foreign key, and it is connected to another table. It is connected to another table. So this is how we create the relationship. In order to show all the relationship, we can create the ERD, the entity relationship diagram. We call it ERD, entity relationship diagram. It is a blueprint. So I'm going to create the ERD. In this case, I'm going to create some tables. Suppose we have the data about user, and then the user can make a post. For example, you can have questions, and then you can ask to people, and then let the other people answer your question. Now, the most important thing is we need to figure out at least 3 files. The first file, we are going to make the database. So we are creating the connection between the Python and the database. Because this is the connection. And then we are using some library such as create engine, session local, and base. And we will create the models. We call this is tables. So all the tables will be in this file. In our case, we will create at least 3 tables: okay, user, question, and post. And those will inherit from the base, because it is for the connection. And the last one is the main.py. So this is the app that you already learned before, or sometimes we can just say this is the view, okay, the view section. We are going to use the FAST API, and we will check what are the important libraries for the connection to the database and also to the models. For this purpose, yeah, you can create a project, and then we will have at least 3 files. Okay, so we are going to do this thing. So before we go into the PyCharm, it is good to understand this model. Okay. Because this is the ERD. We call this is the ERD, entity relationship diagram. And later on, we will create it in the models.py. So there are 3 tables, or yeah, sometimes we just call it models. Okay. The first table is user, and the second is question, and the third is post. For the user, now you can see, yeah, I try to simplify, so you don't need to make it all those information. For example, I have the ID, and let the ID is an integer. Okay, I assume that you already know integer and string. So integer is just a number, and this is PK. So PK means the primary key. And then I have a username, and let the username be a string. Okay. Of course, you will ask, can I put another attribute such as password? Yes, you can. Or maybe email. Yes, you can, and so on. But just for simplicity, I will not include those one. And we have another table, which is question. Now, the question, I also have one primary key, which is the ID. and the data will be integer. I have another attribute which is about content, and this will be a string. And this question should have a connection with at least one ID. So the user ID here, it is the foreign key, FK, and this is integer, and it is connected with the ID in the user. The other table, we call it post. So in the post, we have the ID, and this is integer, and it is a primary key. So for example, I have another variable, we call it answer text, and this is a string. And we have another attribute, we call it question ID. It is integer, and it is a foreign key. So this foreign key is connected or related to the ID from the question. And we have another attribute, we call it created at, and this is date time. So I want to know which answer and when it was created. So in the ERD, in the common ERD, we have this kind of symbol. I cannot explain all the things, but in the relationship between one table and another table, we will have the at least three kind of relationship. The first relationship is 1-to-1 relationship. The second is one-to-many relationship. Or sometimes we can also have many-to-one relationship. And the other relationship, we can have many-to-many relationship. Okay, so let's just assume, one user can make many questions. So the symbol will be like this one. It means one symbol, one user can have many questions. If you want to make the user and the question, let's say one question can be from many users. Yeah, if you want to make that one, then it means you will do something like this symbol. Okay. But let's make it simple. One user can create many questions. It means for every ID, one ID, there should be only one user ID. Okay. So for example, user 1 can create the question on ID 1. User 1 can create ID number 2 on the question. User 1 can create ID 3. User 2 can create ID 4. User 2 can create ID 5. So every user can have many ID. But one ID in the question will have only one user. So we have this one is one to many relationship. And suppose the question and post, okay, this also refer to one to many relationship. One question, there can be many answers. So for example, I want to ask how to learn Fast API. Maybe one person answer, you can use YouTube. Maybe the ID one, the answer is you can use YouTube. Number two, maybe the answers, you can join the class Fast API. Number three, you can buy some books about Fast API and so on. Then it means one question can be related to many answers. But one answer is only for one question. So we have one to many relationship. So a user can write many questions, and a question can be answered by many users in the post. Okay. So I'm now not creating anything for the user. Yeah. So let's just make it simple. Of course, if you want to make something like this one, yeah, you can also make the relationship. For example, in the post, I need to know who write the answer. And you will have also the user ID integer, and you will have the foreign key. So this foreign key will connect to the user. It means if you are not a user, you cannot answer the question. So yeah, those kind of is possible, but for the simplicity, I will just create like this table. Now there are so many tools for you to create this kind of model. Okay. You can use any tool in the online in the website, or there are also many open source in order to create this kind of model. So for your team project, yeah, you need to create this kind of model, because this model is the first step to develop your website. Okay. So for the idea of your team project, figure out what is the idea, and then yeah, figure out what kind of model you are going to develop. And you need to design your ERD. So this is the ERD. We have the user ID, and then it is an integer, and then it is a primary key, and there is one attribute, the username. In the ERD, they have a kind of symbol, one star. Star means many. Then one user can have many questions. And then we have the ID, content, user ID. This is the user ID as the primary key. Yeah, unfortunately, there is no symbol here, but at least this is the connection. So you can see here, the ID here is connected to the user ID here. So it is a relationship between the ID in the table user and the user ID in the table questions. And then we have the ID in the questions and question ID in the post. So this is the foreign key. And the relationship is 1 to many. Okay. For our course, let me just use the SQLite. So by the default, the configuration use SQLite. So if you wish to use another database, yeah, you can install the appropriate database bindings. So you need to install some libraries, and then you need to install also the database into your computer and etc. So I don't want to spend a lot of time for that one. If we use the SQLite, everything is in the PyCharm. Then I can just use the SQLite for this class. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm too fast maybe. So before doing this one, let's create a project. Okay. I will create the Fast API project. Let me make the name. Yeah, you can design your own name. For example, I'm just using like basic DB. Okay. Now let me try something different. Last time I teach you to use the virtual environment. Okay. this virtual environment, actually, it is the Python library in your project. So if you install using the virtual environment, it means one project at least you have one Python library. So let's say in this case, in this case, you have the external library and Python includes in this project. So that's why last time when you did the assignment, I asked you to include also the virtual environment, because your virtual environment might be different with my virtual environment. So I just found out that we can use another way, but yeah, let's try. Okay, let's try together. I'm not sure with this computer, but at least it works in my computer. Now let's create the FAST API, and then let's make the basic DB. For the interpreter, yeah, we can just use the custom environment. Let's say if you have the Conda, it is you can use the maybe the Anaconda, the mini Conda, but I think in this computer there is no Conda, so let's just use the custom environment. And whenever you do with this new project, last time I mentioned to you, yeah, you can use the generate new, or you can select the existing. Generating new means you create a new virtual environment. If you're selecting from the existing, it means you just select from the existing Python. Okay. So let's try with the select the existing. So I'm not going to create the virtual environment, but I'm going to use the Python in this system. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it is working well or not, but let's try. Let's try together. So I'm going to use the Python. Let me check the Conda. Okay, Conda is not available. So I will use Python. And let me check. Okay, there is only one Python, one single Python in this computer. Then let me. Okay, let me try then. If you are doing with the virtual environment, most probably, yeah, you can have the library. Okay, you can have the library inside the project. But if you are using the existing Python, you can see this Python is on the local app in your computer. Okay. There might be some errors, but let's see. Before we do something more, let's run this code. Okay. If it works well, you can see there is a message hello world, like this one. There's a message hello world when we do with the root. And then if you put the hello, okay, let me just put the hello. Okay, hello half, it works well. Then it means this Python, yeah, is okay for me to use. So why I'm using this one, let me show you. So let's suppose I'm going to submit this project. Okay. So when you submit this project, there is no virtual environment. If there is no virtual environment, then this file will be very small. Okay. But if you look at the basic template, yeah, it includes the virtual environment, and the virtual environment already have like 50 mega. So whenever you zip the file into, if you want to make a zip, let's say now up to 5. You can see here, when you do the compression uptook, so the file size is high. If you do with the existing, like this one, the basic DB, let me show you. Now you can see the file size is only 5 kilobytes. Okay. Yeah, I'm showing you this one in order to make the efficient files. Okay. And let's try with this format to make the file more efficient. So when you do with your mid exam, it will be also more efficient for your submission. Okay, now let's get back to this one. Now let's start with the database.py. I'm going to create the database.py in this environment. So the database.py means it is a Python file. So I'm going to create a new Python file, and then the file name is database. So in the database, I'm going to use this one. Yeah, of course, there will be some errors. Let's see later how to solve the errors. The second file that you need to create is the models. Okay, so let's create the model first. We need to have another file, models.py. And then paste the file. And then create the main.py. So you can just update the main.py with this one. Okay, if you already finished with everything, now let's try to run it. Okay, you can see the error message. If you look at the error message here, the error message means that you don't have the SQL Alchemy. So you can just install the library. Now the PyCharm knows that you need to install the library, so you can just click install package, and the PyCharm will immediately install that package for you. So if it is completed, then you can rerun again, then everything will be fine. Okay. Now I will check this one, and you can see database is ready. So if you can see this one, then it means everything fine. Everything was fine, and then yeah, we can do to the next stage. Okay, is everything okay? Am I too fast? Okay, so please do the same as what I mentioned to you. Yeah, if you can see this message, database is ready, then everything is okay. Okay. So now let's try to see one by one before we create more details on the database. For the first part, the database.py, it handles the core engine. So it handles the core engine. It means we are going to use the create engine. This create engine, it will be a kind of connector. So we are going to connect from the Python into the database. And we want to use the ORM, Object Relationship Management. So this SQLAlchemy.orm, there will be some kind of object relationship where we want to deal with the session clarity base. So let's just use this one. Maybe we will not do all the things, but at least you need to know about those and why we need to use this one. And the next is the connection string for the SQLite. For the connection, you need to define, I'm using the SQLite. So as I mentioned in PyCharm, they already have a built-in SQLite. And for this SQLite, I'm going to create a DB name. So let's suppose the DB name is QA. QA means question and answer. And it is the app QA underbar app.db. DB is the database. And then we are going to create the engine. So the engine means I'm going to use the database. So the database is the SQLAlchemy database URL, which is this one. So I'm calling the variable name SQLAlchemy database URL, and then I'm going to connect it. So this connection, it means there should be some parameters, or we call it the arguments. Check the same thread. Let be it is false. So this is just a parameter to make sure that you have only one connection to the database. And the last one, it is to create a session and the base. So session means you are going to make at least one session because it is necessary to make the commit. It means you can save your data. You can select your data. You can extract your data. You can update your data. So we call it, this is session. For now, let's just make it everything as false. Okay? Auto commit equals to false, auto flush equals to false, and bind equals to the engine. So engine means this one. You just created the engine. And then base. The base is one of the object from the declarative base. So we are going to use this base later, okay, in the other part of the Python file. For the second file, we have again the SQLAlchemy. Now we are going to import some important libraries from SQLAlchemy. So we have column, integer, string, foreign key, and datetime. So the column means it is a class to create the column. Integer, this is the integer class data type. String, this is a string class data type. Foreign key, it determines the relationship with the another table. Datetime, this is the class data type. And then the base, it is the superclass. I call it, this is the superclass. If you understand the OOP, object-oriented programming, we have the superclass. And we have the subclass. In the first API using the SQLAlchemy, we are going to connect to the superclass. So this is the base. The SQLAlchemy.sql, it means we are going to use the function, and from the database we import base. So where is this database? This is from database.py. So we are going to use the base that we just created. It means we will use this base. We will use this base. And for every class here, user, question, host. If you learn the object-oriented programming, I'm declaring a new class. So this is the class user. And when I put something inside the parenthesis, this one is space, it means this is the superclass. So I'm going to inherit anything from this superclass, and then I'm going to put everything in my class. Okay. So in this class, I want to specify the table name. The table name is users. So later we will call the table name using users. And then there will be one ID, and the ID is a column where the data type is a string, and this ID is primary key or PK. And let's just use the indexing. Okay, so indexing, it is just a kind of number. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So if we put true, then we will use this number. If we use false, then we can define another kind of integer. For example, maybe 100. Yeah, we can use it as the primary key. Username. So the username will be also a column, and the data type is string. And you can check this one, unique equals to true. It means every username should be unique, or there is no duplication on the username. Next is the class question. Question. We also inherit from the superclass base. And for the table name, I'm going to use questions. The ID is a column where the data type is integer, and this is a primary key. And let's just use the indexing, just using number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. The content will be a column. I just declare that this is a string, so I don't need to define any other thing. And the user ID is a column, and the data type is integer, and it is a foreign key. So this foreign key, we need to define where is the foreign key that it is connected. So I'm going to connect this foreign key into the users. Where is users? This is the users. And then I'm going to connect with the ID. So the ID is the ID from the users. Next is the class post, and it also inherits from the base. So the table name will be post, and I have also an ID. It is a column where the data type is integer, the primary key is true, and is also using an index 2. So it means we use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. The answer text will be a string, and then the question ID will be a column where the data type is integer, and it is a foreign key. So the foreign key will connect to the questions. The questions is from this table, and I'm going to connect with the ID. So the ID is this one. Next, I have another attribute created at. So the data type will be date time, and I'm going to use the time zone equals to true. So our time zone in Korea, it is +9 from the UTC. Then the time will follow this time zone. And the server default function dot now. It means I'm going to check the current time or using the time now. And this is the main.py. In the main.py, you need to use the fast API, and we are going to use the engine, and we are going to use the models. For the remaining depends and session local, we will learn later. For the models, we just created the models. So this is from the models.py. In the models.py, we are calling the superclass, which is the base, and then we are calling the metadata and create all. So I'm going to create everything from the models and connect it to the database. So this is the engine from the database. And then we are going to use the app REST API. And then when you run this app, because there is no error, so you just see the message database is ready. Okay. Yeah, if everything goes well, then I guess you can see like this one. For the database, you can see here on the left part, you can see the QA_app.db. Okay, so it means now the DB has been created. There is a DB here. Sorry, this one, QA_app.db. And now you can see there is a database icon. Can you see here? There is a database icon on your PyCharm. You can see there is a database icon here. So this database icon, it is the rule for connecting to the database. For the first time, there will be no database. So in order to open your database, you can just click on this app DB and then click and drag and drop into this database. Once you drag and drop, then the data source and drivers will appear like this one. And then once you complete with this, you can see there is a kind of message: download missing driver files. It means the database has not been connected because you do not have the driver. Here you can check to test the connection. Because you don't have the drivers, the configuration is incomplete. So you cannot do the connection. You need to download the driver files. Once you complete the download, then you can see succeeded. It means everything was done. The SQLite has been installed properly to connect to your app. And then, if you do another test connection, then it is succeeded. If you already succeeded this one, then you can click OK. Now you can see your database in the right hand. Okay. So you can see now you have the table posts, the table questions, and the table users. Okay. So this is the panel that I just showed you before. Once you see this kind of panel, make sure that you already connected to the database. Okay, let me stop here. Let's have a break. I will continue after the break.